Okay, we will start in about 1 minute. Thank you everyone for joining. Okay, let's get started. So, hello everyone. Welcome from all to the TD Engine free tier workshop from all across the world. My name is Jim. I'm the VP of product for TD Engine, and joining with me we have our solutions engineer Arun. We're currently both based in the California, USA, and I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience list. So welcome everyone to join this session. A few housekeeping notes before we start. So if you have any questions regarding today's contents, or if you have any question regarding TD Engine, you can use the chat window to post your questions. We'll try to get them answered. There's a Q&A session at the end of today's workshop. We will stay as long as needed to answer all the questions that you might have. And also, there is a link that's posted in the chat right now that points to our free tier workshop manual. If you are lost in the session of the workshop, just use that as a reference for guiding you throughout the process of the hands-on exercise, okay? So with that being said, again, any question at all, let us know. Use the chat window to raise the questions. And to start with, we are going to walk you through a few slides just to give you a quick intro of the program, what that represents, and also to give everyone a quick intro of TD Engine to those who are not familiar with the product. And then I'm going to pass it over to Arun. Arun is going to give you a very quick high-level demo of TD Engine, what it looks like when you have a completed, let's say, dashboard created using TD Engine. Then the most of today's session is going to be focused on the hands-on exercise to have you definitely install the software and then use the software, okay? So that should, and Arun, you're typing really loud. Can you maybe mute yourself?
Yep.
Yeah. And okay, let's get started. So first of all, we're very excited to kind of launch this workshop series. It's a getting started with TD Engine free tier. As you all know, we launched TD Engine free tier from last week. And the decision was made because we wanted to make sure TD Engine is not only accessible to the large enterprises. We have a lot of clients that have millions of tags, right, with their historian application. But we're aware that with this tool that we're generating, it's a modernized version of the traditional historian. We want to make it more accessible to anyone, not just to large enterprises, to anyone who wants to use a modern version of the let's say Pi system, and also use that along with the help of AI, the benefits of large language model, how that can assist you to give you more operational insights in your daily activities. So TD Engine is really, if you are not familiar with the product, it is a combination of all the benefits you can get from a traditional historian like Pi system, plus it's fully integrated with modern AI and large language model. So that is, we always use the analogy like, if the traditional historian is like a BlackBerry phone, TD Engine will be like an iPhone, okay? And now with this free tier, it essentially allows you to use the full capabilities of our historian capabilities up to 5,000 tags. And if it's beyond 5,000 tags, you can contact us about a commercial license. But if it's within 5,000 tags, you're free to use that wherever you want. You can use that to evaluate TD Engine. And it's not just for small companies or any companies. If you are a large corporation, if you want to use TD Engine, if you want to use the free tier to evaluate the capabilities of TD Engine, feel free to do so. For smaller companies, maybe that's good enough for a lot of the scenarios. You can use that in production if you wanted to. And if you want additional professional services, you can contact us. But we also have a Discord channel for you to I'll post that link towards the end of today's session. You can join that. If you have questions in general, you can ask us in the Discord channel. Okay, so that was the main reason why we came up with this free tier. Again, there's no strings attached. It's not a limited, edition, limited version. It's, it doesn't have a time limit or anything like that. It has everything you want with the TD Engine, everything you want to use with TD Engine 4. It's available in this free tier. So the purpose for us to launch this workshop series or training series is to get people more up to speed of how to use TD Engine. So today's session is more kind of a generic opening session for us. We're going to do that every other week. The next, in 2 weeks from today, we're going to talk about how you can connect your real production data into TD Engine from, let's say, OPC UA or MQTT, different data sources, how you can connect that with TD Engine. When you ingest that data into our database, how do you later map that to IDMP and start, working the magic with the AI, right? So that will be the subsequent sessions. So stay tuned to our workshop series. And yeah, so there is today's demo. And to those of you who are not familiar with TD Engine is an AI-powered data platform. We've been on the market for about 9 years. And as of the end of last year, we had over 1,000 paid customers all across the world. And our traditional clients are in the industrial space, let's say in the energy, whether it's power generation, traditional power generation, renewable power generation, oil and gas, manufacturing, anything you can think of in the industrial space. TD Engine is very present in those areas. We also power some of the largest applications in the world. One of the biggest clients in using TD Engine in production. They've been using TD Engine in production for 3 years. And last year, they had about 50 million tags in one instance. It's a cluster of about 6 servers. So it's a big cluster of TD Engine, but everything is managed in one instance. And this year, they're going to expand to 70 million tags. So that is just from one customer. And we have over a dozen customers having over 10 million tags and above, right? So TD Engine as a platform is extremely scalable. So on the with regards to the team, we have a team in North America, we have a team in Asia. Overall, we have about 120 employees, and over 60% of us are developers or engineers. So we're a very engineering heavy company. And we also have an open source version for our time series database. At this point, it's been downloaded by more than 1 million users around the world. So it's a brief intro to the company. And this is a quick overview of the product portfolio, like I mentioned before. So with the TD Engine free tier, it is all in one package, which means we expose all the capabilities of TD Engine within this all-in-one free tier package. It includes both our time series database and also the IDMP, the application layer. So that is what we are offering as a free tier. It's not an open source, but also in the same time, it doesn't have any limitations. Anything you want to do in the traditional historian, you can do that in TD Engine IDMP. The only limitation I would say I want to also point out is that for the TSDB portion, if you want a TSDB connecting with another tool like Grafana or Power BI, currently that is still limited with the free tier, which means the TSDB portion of the free tier mainly serves IDMP. The main purpose of us incorporating that into the free tier is to serve the IDMP. If you want to connect our TSDB enterprise with a third-party tool for query, that still needs a commercial license for that, okay? And if you have any questions of that, you can contact us directly. But other than that, and the 5,000 tag, these are the only 2 limits for the TD Engine free tier. You can use that to ingest data from the different data sources using OPC UA, OPC DA, MQTT. Once you have the data in our TD Engine, then you can use all the features and functions, all the security, all the compression, all the encryption, all the replication features. There's no limitation to that either. You can also with IDMP, as you can have data contextualization, the model tree. You will be able to do kind of a visualization, create any dashboards, visualization that you wanted to, create events and analytics, event frames, notifications, all these features are included. Even the AI features are incorporated. You can use machine learning feature to do like data forecasting in IDMP, right? You can also leverage the machine learning feature called TDGPT to do anomaly detection. You can incorporate your own machine learning algorithm as long as it supports the PyTorch framework. You can incorporate that directly into TDEngine and do these prediction or advanced analytics all within IDMP. Again, everything, all of those features are included. You can connect TDEngine with a large language model to give you access to AI insights, operational insights from AI. This is also incorporated. No extra licenses required for that. And yeah, so that's a quick overview of our portfolio. And we encourage everyone to give a try of TDEngine free tier. We assume that most of you have already downloaded the TDEngine free tier. If you have any questions with the downloading or activation, Arun will briefly go through that in the beginning of the demo section, okay? And regarding learning resources, so if you have, for example, if you want to know more about TDEngine after today's session, there are a few learning resources you can leverage. First of all, we have a bunch of tutorial videos on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search TDEngine, and then you will find a playlist called Getting Started with TDEngine Free Tier. We're adding more videos every week to that. It talks about anything from installation to data ingestion to panels, dashboards, visualization, how to use Excel adding and things like that. That's a great way to get you started. But the most comprehensive way to learn how to use TDEngine is still going to be the documentation. So there's documentation for the TSDB portion of the TDEngine. There's also a very comprehensive documentation for the IDMP portion of the documentation. You will find most of the answers in those documentation. If the answer is not found in those, let us know. We will add it to the documentation. Okay, so that's the document we use officially to explain everything, all the questions that you have. So I encourage everyone. I know it's a long documentation, but one thing you can do is you can work with AI. You can ask ChatGPT. You can put in the documentation, ask ChatGPT. Give me more explanation for this feature. For example, I want to understand more about the compression algorithm of TDEngine. Just use ChatGPT to do that. Another way is for IDMP. I would encourage everyone to go through every section of that. It's at least go through that to understand what's included in the documentation. So later on, if you have any questions, you can go to a particular section and read more about that. Okay, so it tells you everything from creating elements, the definition of elements, attributes, how to create model trees, all the different kinds of panels that we support, different chart types, dashboards, PNID style diagram, different analysis, different trigger types for analysis. Very comprehensive. So these are the things that you can definitely follow through in your own time after the workshop. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Arun to start the demo and then later on the hands-on workshop. Okay, the stage is yours, Arun. Take it over.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim, for that little intro. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly to you guys. Okay, awesome. So this workshop manual is already up, and you guys have seen a tutorial to this. You guys can scroll down and follow along. So don't feel any pressure if you can't keep up the entire time. It's totally okay. Following along with this workshop manual is more than okay. Another thing is the installation. So while I do the demo, if some of you haven't installed it yet, it'll be good for you guys to go ahead and try to install while we're doing this little demo. This is going to be the easiest way to install it. The all-in-one installation overview, just pick the platform you're on, and it's a singular run command. I've seen a couple people have issues with the Windows, antivirus software. Just disable it when you're running the install package. It typically shouldn't do anything as long as you disable it, and it should go all the way through. So we'll have the link to this posted in the chat. And then one more thing is, for those in offline environments, which is also completely okay, there's some troubleshooting for that. You're simply going to grab the registration code from the backend without actually using your email. So that is also an option for you guys. Both of these documentations I will put in the chat, so you guys have the option to go ahead and try both of those ways. And if there are any questions at any point, feel free to go ahead and let me know. Awesome. Thank you guys. Okay, so at the start of this demo, or once you have your data in, this is kind of what you should get to, this screen right here. And this is TDengine's IDMP in all of its glory. Today's demo is mainly going to focus on the solar. Cool. No worries. Awesome. All right, to get started, I'm going to give you guys a second to sort of get everything, up and running.
Maybe just change to a different headset, different audio. Seems like they can hear my voice okay, but not yours.
It seems like they're saying it's okay now, but yeah, I'll switch over anyway.
Yeah, let's just change one.
Let's just make sure you guys can hear this properly. We want you to have everything up and running by the end of the session. So let's see.
Okay. Got a new computer lately. It's very powerful. It's 48 gigs. So we're still doing some tuning on the audio side.
Okay. Well, let's see.
Maybe do some testing and see if it's better.
Okay. We're going to go a little bit old school with this one. So this is a wired headset. How's the audio now? Hopefully much better. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead. Awesome. Let's take a look. So before this workshop starts, hopefully you guys have everything set up. I'm going to go ahead and drop the links to the installation. So let's grab some of these links so you guys can install. The first link that I'm sending is for the all-in-one installation. This will help you guys install with a single run command and make it much easier for you guys to get to this point. And it also tells you how to activate the free tier. The second link I'm going to drop when you guys go all the way to the bottom is for the offline installation. So I've seen plenty of questions about how do I get to this point with an offline environment. And yes, you can do that. So if you go all the way down here, you'll be able to retrieve the registration code without offline. Or if you guys prefer, you don't want to give like an email, you can also grab the code without providing an actual email. So I'm going to give you guys both of these links. And then I'm going to give you a second before we start the actual, workshop manual. So right now would be any good questions about installation, perfect time to ask them. And both of those links are in the chat. So you guys will be able to go ahead and directly access them. So we're going to give it about a minute here before we jump into it.
Yeah, and also by show of hands, can everyone just let us know for the ones that you already have TDengine installed on your computer, can you type it down in the chat and let us know?
Yep.
Or just type one or anything.
Yeah, just any way you guys want to let us know. I think you guys can also raise your hands, just whatever it takes to let us know. We'll give you another minute here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, looks like Luca has it installed. Awesome. Oh, awesome. Yep. And yeah, it's meant to be a one-run command. And like I said, if you run into issues with that all-in-one installer, totally okay. We're more than happy to help you after this session as well. So don't worry about it. Just follow along as best as you can. Okay. Now that you guys have gotten to this screen, first thing that we're going to do within the workshop manual is we're going to go to the admin console, which is right up here. You guys will see your names, but this one has my name in it. And then I'll go to the admin console, and you're going to want to find sample data, right? And then I have 2 scenarios loaded. You guys should have either one or none. To load a scenario, simply click load. And once this part of it turns green, that's when you'll know it's ready to go. So solar power is the scenario that we're going to focus on today. I'm going to give it a minute for you guys to get the solar power scenario up and loaded. It should be ready to go within a couple seconds, but we're going to give you a minute. Simply just go to this, click load, and then hit confirm. And then once you do that, you should be ready to go. So we're gonna give it a minute here. Once you hit refresh, you can also control the sampling rate. So I could say this data refreshes every 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 1 second, and then you go back to the Explorer. You'll start to see the tree pop up. I just loaded utilities, but you guys should see solar power group, and a bunch of different inverters and weather sensors start to pop up. So I'm going to give you guys a second here to get to this point. Once someone has gotten to this point, please go ahead and put it in the chat. And that'll be a good way to let me know that you guys were actually able to reach this sort of step. And also one more thing to mention, there are quite a few ports that you guys will need to open up to actually get IDMP and TSDB working. The all-in-one installation guide tells you which ports that you need. If those ports aren't ready to go, that could be another issue in terms of your installation. So yeah, please take a look at that. Okay, so going down, let's first look into the actual data. So looking at the actual solar data set, I like to start with the inverters. The data should already be flowing. And then right here, the main thing to take away from this workshop is that none of this data is live, right? So this data is coming in directly from us through a tool that we use called TDengine. And you guys can use this tool to generate your own scenarios as well. If that's something you guys are interested in, that's available to you guys as a resource in the documentation. So if you're worried about, hey, I want to throw up a sample scenario and, our scenarios don't really work for you, totally fine. You can generate your own sample data just like this one without having to ingest from a real data source. Now, looking at it, what you guys should see, I've made a couple extras, but what you should see is the DC power, the AC power, the daily yield, the total yield, the plant ID, and the inverter ID, right? And then one of the really cool things is that you can immediately get general analysis on your data. So go ahead and try the AI analysis on your data. It should immediately give you a summary of the attributes that you do have and the metrics that you have. So in TDengine, we have a concept of a metric and a tag. A tag is a static attribute. So this plant ID would be a tag. And then also the metrics are your timestamp data. You should see we have 4 metrics here: DC power, AC power, daily yield, and total yield. And now I can get some general analysis, some actions that I could do on this. And, this is a interactive chat, so I can go ahead and chat back and forth. So give that a try, kind of see what you guys have, and, go back and forth with AI on a couple questions that you would have on these elements, on these attributes. Okay. Another thing we're going to do is look at the historical data, right? And you're probably asking, yeah, I can see it here, and you can see a refresh. You can go up here to refresh, what time that data is coming in. But you also have the option to visualize all of your data, right? So you can add individual metrics to a analysis workbench, which is essentially, what we just used for the event frames. So I can add multiple metrics to an analysis workbench, and I can change the time range. So I can do like the last 5 minutes. That was all of my historical data. Let's just do the last 5 minutes because you guys just created this, and you'll be able to throw multiple in there. So let's throw a DC power and AC power onto this sort of trend chart. And then when you guys get here, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Psyker gave me one, but whenever you guys get to this point, give me a thumbs up.
And it's worth pointing out that there are two components of the main two main components of our TD engine, right? One is the time series database, and one is the IDMP. So all the timestamp data is stored in our time series database, right? So when the data is generated, like Arun mentioned, the sample data is generated, everything is stored in our TSDB, our time series data, and then IDMP is sort of just mapping these data. It works as like the PySF framework, right? It maps all these elements or these data to a structured, to essentially a hierarchical structure in the IDMP user interface. But all the data that you see, even in IDMP, it's still coming from TSDB portion. Okay, so that's essentially how these two product works. And if you want to, we encourage you to use the all-in-one package to do the installation. But if you need to do this, let's say local deployment, separate installation for different components, TSDB and IDMP are the two main components. Then the two other components that you may want to use, one is called TDGPT. That is the one that essentially is our machine learning algorithm that enables you to do all these like advanced analytics. If you want, that is optional. If you want, you can install it. And Arun, the other one is TD model, correct?
Yep. TD model is already there by default. It's another component, but you still need TDGPT to run the actual model. So yeah, you need TDGPT to get that feature running anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We're going to keep going. But at this point, you should have both of these on a trend chart, and you could do this with any metric. So that's another way to see it. Like I said, I encourage you guys to play around with all of these features. For example, you could throw both of these metrics on a scatter chart to see what that looks like. There's a lot of cool advanced analytic features. Let's do the last 15 minutes because my data is, not coming in real time. I can do things like panel insights on this actual, metric chart. So you can still use AI even when it's just raw historical data. That's not limited to, one section. You'll notice that this feature is built into everything that we do. So encourage you guys to try that analysis on your attributes as well, and especially these two metrics. It'll give you a good idea into what's going on in the last 5 minutes. Is there high frequencies? Is a low frequency of your data? If there's an isolated anomaly, like right over here, it detected that there was an isolated anomaly. There's a brief DC power drop, and my AI immediately picks up on that. So there's a lot of really cool insights that you'll find that AI brings to the table. Another thing that I forget to mention is that your LLM right now for the next 7 days since you've activated this should be completely free. So you guys will not have to touch that. At the end of the demo or at the end of the workshop, I will go over how you guys can add your own LLMs, because right now we're giving you sort of a trial of our API key, but you will have to use your own API key at some point, right? So we're going to kind of go over how to set up your own LLM. So that's something else we'll do if you guys are struggling with that as well. Okay, so that's one thing to do. Another thing to note is that you can bring data in through different connectors, but we recognize some people just want their data in and then use CSVs to bring that data in. And you guys can totally do that as well. So if you want to upload years and years of historical data through CSVs, totally fine. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to create our own attribute. So let's do a new attribute here. For new attribute, let's just call this workshop. You guys can name it whatever you want. The first thing I could do is I could categorize it, and I can add my own category. So we're going to just call this the workshop category. For me, I'm going to hit save, and it should say created successfully for you guys. So I've categorized it. We have a ton of different value types. I'm not going to go through all of these today, but integers should be fine for whatever we're doing today. You could also do float if you really wanted to. You can give it a default value, so I can make like 0 the default value if I wanted to. And then I can tag it with a unit of metric. So if I wanted to tag it with a unit of metric, I could totally do that, and it just adds more contextualization to my attribute. for us, and if you've used Pi before, you should be familiar with some of these things like formula and string builder for data reference. We're just going to hop into formula. Within the formula section, I want to do a couple different things, but I think the easiest one to do for this demo is we're going to use the max function. So just type up max and then add the AC power. Go ahead and hit evaluate, and you should see the max AC power pop up, and you're going to go ahead and hit save. So that's how easy it is to kind of do calculations, and you could totally also, and I encourage you guys to try whatever calculations you want. You could do something like max AC power plus max DC power, right? And you could evaluate that, or sorry, these are aggregated metrics, so they have to be average for both of them. So max, let's say average AC power plus max average DC power. So there's a ton of different expressions that you guys can try out, something like this, and you can always evaluate them and kind of get the result in that box down there. So let's just stick to max AC power for this particular section. Let's just go ahead and click evaluate. Once you see the result here, go ahead and hit save. And then now you have a couple different options, right? So first I can configure limits, right? So I can add, a minimum, a maximum, a target, a high or a low if I wanted to. So we're not going to configure any limits today, but that is an option for you guys. I can also do a forecast configuration. Now, when you have TDGPT, so the database does have a REST API endpoint. So does the front end. It's a really good question, Sandeep. Everything that you're seeing here today, whether it's creating an attribute or the AI features, can be accessed through our REST API, and it's very extensive. So it works on the entire platform. Great question.
So yeah, I do want to point out one thing for that. And first of all, Arun, can you zoom in a little bit for your?
Yep, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that was good enough. Yeah. So to answer the question about API, yes. So we have REST API open for both the TSDB portion and IDMP portion. And for our IDMP, it's available. The REST API access is available through our free tier. But I do want to point out that for the TSDB, you can still, for any data ingestion portion, you can still use those API or JDBC, ODBC to get data into TSDB. But for our TSDB enterprise version itself, like I mentioned earlier, the only restriction we currently have is that you won't be able to query the TSDB enterprise through a third-party tool using any of the connection for the time being, because we throw in TDengine Enterprise for free mainly to serve the purpose of working with IDMP. But let's say if you have another tool that you want to get the data from our TSDB, then you will need a commercial license for the TSDB. And if you're interested in that, just let us know. We'll point you to the right person to deal with, to talk about that. So yes, the product has REST API, WebSockets for any read or writes. But for a third party to read, currently you can read from IDMP, but you cannot read directly from TSDB if you're using the free tier. But for our regular license, everything works. Okay.
Yep. Awesome. Great question. So are there MCP servers accessible in the platform? Morgan, fantastic question. If you click the admin console on the top right and click on your email, you should be able to see the API key and then also the management for MCP servers. So yes, every part of the platform is accessible through MCP if you wanted to. Okay, I'm going to keep going through it. You could also do a forecast configuration on each of these attributes. So I could forecast what the max is going to be through any sort of machine learning model through TDGPT, like Jim mentioned before. And then I can add some additional properties if I wanted to add like an additional value into this. So let's go ahead and hit save. And you should see that sort of pop up. And when I refresh, I'll be able to see that live. So I'll be able to see the last value. And if you've categorized it as workshop, totally works too. Now, from here, what we're going to do is we're going to move through this, workshop manual. The first thing to look at is the context that, or actually before I do that, this data is being generated by our tool, like I mentioned, but in the future, this could come from a variety of data sources, right? So things that you guys are already used to, like MQTT, OPC UA, and DA, and then some of you guys want to bring data directly from Pi, you could do that as well, right? So all of that work will be done on our time series database. The ingestion portion, all of that is on the time series database, but the contextualization and the attributes, everything should look like this once it's in. So whether you're coming from any of those data sources, the end result should be, something that looks, something like this. And the way this looks, the values, all of that, that's totally up to you guys. But we want to get to a point that's something like this. Moving on, next thing we're going to look at is the contextualization. So in that solar site model, if you guys have opened this up for the solar power group, you can open up the inverter section and you'll see how everything is kind of contextualized. There should be about almost 15 inverter or 22 inverters per each of these groups, and you can open it up to kind of see what that tree looks like. So I encourage you guys to play around with it. If you want to get more sort of analysis on this tree, one thing you can do is go into the general section and then go to the higher level of the tree and hit general analysis. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you AI's insights into all of this element's child elements, right? So it mentions, hey, we have 22 inverters. There's 3 levels, right? And because I can use AI with the contextualization of the tree, it makes so much more of these insights that much more like powerful, right? So not only can I do it on individual inverters, I can drop in and do it on 22 different child inverters, and AI will pick up on that because it has that contextualization built in, and it's a really wonderful feature to kind of see. So when you guys get to this point, let me know. I'm going to give it a minute so everyone can sort of play around with this. But yeah, please try using the general analysis on every part of the tree. Like, try it on the whole entire solar power element as well. So you could try it on the baseline inverter, or you could try it on the entire solar power group, and it's going to grab all of the different metadata that you have. So here you could see that it's looking into your tree, that it's looking into all of the dashboards I have. What are the some of the top panels I have. There's some recent events. I have recent events. You guys might not have recent events, but it looks into that, and it even gives me some priority action. So it's really cool, like the type of insights that AI can drill down on, and it even gives you some references into why it thinks these things. So you guys can go ahead and check this out and try it on every part of the tree. I'm going to give you guys another minute before we hop into the next section, and before I mention kind of where we can go from here. So we're going to give it another minute. Go ahead and play around with this, and let me know when you have tried it, and we'll move on. And if there are any questions about this feature, yeah, go ahead and type that in the chat as well.
And Arun, it's probably worth mentioning that we can also upload their own contextualization document.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a great point by Jim. So AI is only really as great as the context that you give it. And another feature that we do support is giving hyper-specific context to each part of the tree. So what do I really mean by that? I mean, I can add a document about all of these inverters to the inverter part of my tree, or I can add individualized documentation to every single inverter, right? So maybe in this inverter part, I add a general documentation about maintenance, but in the inverter one, I add a inverter one maintenance manual that says, hey, this is the maintenance that inverter one has had. I can do that for every single part of the tree, and now the insights generated are going to be that much more powerful because I have given AI the correct context that it needs to sort of work with it, and it can even reference these documentation. For example, we had someone put in a sort of guide or a workbook for one of their plants, and they would ask questions about the guide, and AI would actually use the guide as reference to some of those questions. So that's another scenario that you could do. It's also a great place to put general knowledge. You guys can drop your company's documentation or some kind of external documentation right through links. Any way to give AI context would be through this related documents section. So that is also possible. As mentioned, these related documents are stored within IDMP. So you can also pull it through REST API. So if you want to build out this as a contextualization tool and directly pull this through the REST API, that's another option for you guys. Okay, we're gonna move on to what we're gonna do next, and that is analyze some of these inverters on the analysis workbench, right? So let's go to inverter one. Let's grab that DC power attribute, and we're gonna add it to an analysis workbench. I'm gonna go to inverter two, grab that DC power and add it to analysis workbench. And then we're going to do that for inverter 3 as well. So we're going to grab all three of these. Now I have 12 hours of data. You guys might only have 15 to 5 minutes. I think it's 15 is probably better for this workshop. Let's put all three of these on a trend chart. So once you guys have all three of these on a trend chart, let me know. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Once all three of the DC power of these are on a trend chart, or actually, I guess AC power is also a good one. So if you can do DC or AC power onto a trend chart to kind of see what that looks like. And once it's here, I will very briefly go over some of the advanced analytic tools that we have for you guys to sort of play around with. Really magical, some of the things you guys can do with this. And you can pick the time range, right? So you can also do the last 5 minutes, or if we had historical data, we could go back years and years into the data. But yeah, go ahead and just pick the time range. Last 5 minutes, last 10 minutes totally works. Cool. Gave you a second. First thing is you could see the data list. So right now we don't have events, but if I did have an event on top of this, I would see all of my events. The window list. So you're able to create ad hoc, window analysis on top of this, and it'll pop up here in the window list. The last one is the attribute list, and this gives you some batch analysis on everything that I have, right? So for each of them, it gives me the max, the min, the average, the 95 and 5% profile, and the median as well. And you can export this list as a CSV. This is automatically calculated without you guys having to touch anything. And I encourage you to take a look at this. Maybe useful to you guys. The first feature is marker line mode. So the difference between these attributes with respect to the time, so the delta. So I can do marker line mode between these two attributes, and you can see that line change and the values sort of change there. This you could also do window analysis on top of this. So I could do an event that happens to this solar power situation if I wanted to. So I could say, hey, when the DC power is greater than 5 for 10 seconds, put this on the trend chart and then add a color to it. I encourage you guys to play around with that. Or you could do a sliding window where you do a window for every couple seconds. I want to fill this value, right? And you can even pick an event template. So you can build those events that you would do with an analysis right on top of this without creating an actual analysis is essentially what this is. You can do a forecast. I'm not going to go into the forecast because I'm not sure how many of you guys actually have TDGPT installed, but I can run a forecast using a machine learning model right on top of this, right? And for the forecast, we need slightly more data, but I'll show you what it looks like on my end. So if I wanted to forecast this, I would pick the model. Right now, we come with 6 models by default, and you guys are able to use any of these right off the rip. So if I pick, like, let's say the time series foundation model, it automatically fills out the sampling rate, and then I can change a few things, but you'll see that it can do forecast projections, and it changes, with the time that I create. And this will obviously be better with tons of more data, but those are the sort of forecasts that you can do, and you can disable it or re-enable it here. You can also disable the multi-swim lane. So if you want to see these on top of each other, you could totally do that. Multi-swim lane is disableable. I can also enable XY plot. So I can put two of these on an XY plot. Let's put two of them on an XY plot. And then that's what that would look like, right? And a couple really cool features from this, I can do regression analysis. So I could try out all sorts of different regressions. I like polynomial and exponential. I can do data aggregation, right? I can show you different clusters of what this looks like. Here's multiple clusters of this data. And that event feature that I just talked about, I can do a window simply by dragging a box. So I can drag a box, and I can even find a window with that box. So if I do that, I can throw a window on top of that. And we don't have enough data to do a window, but you can find windows simply by just throwing it on this trend. So that's another cool feature. You can even do profile search of all of these. So you can do a profile search through a DTW or cosine similarity algorithm just by grabbing a box as well. So that's another sort of thing that you can do. Let's do the last 30 minutes. And then I can also do the panel insights, right? So I can do the panel insights on top of my data. This is the last sort of AI feature. So it's almost like having Seek and TrendMiner built into my system, but with an AI copilot strapped on top. So you're not going to be able to get these insights immediately generated on something like Seek or TrendMiner, but you can with our system. And I encourage you guys to play around. There's some really cool insights you can generate with this, and it'll even pull from those documents from before onto this. So that's another feature that we do support.
Yeah, maybe let's give them a bit of a breathing room. So let's have everyone create just one event, making sure everyone is able to create one analysis event, with an event window. Let's say maybe when power is over a certain number, and just making sure everyone experience that from their side. And also to answer a question from Sandeep, what is the highest frequency at which real-time data can be historized? So TDengine TSDB, it's we're really underneath the TDengine. We have a very modern time series database. It's different than the traditional historians, so we don't have a kind of a limit per se for the sampling frequency. We have some users using TDengine for data coming from high frequency sensors like accelerometers. Right, so these can be a few thousand hertz, which means a few thousand data points per second just for one sensor. And we have a company having over 3,000 of those sensors, right, all across the world. So we've seen customers using TDengine for those. We also have customers using us for detecting earthquakes. So they have a lot of those high frequency sensors as well. So the highest we've seen is around like 10,000 hertz, I think, from one sensor. So there's not really like a limit as to how frequent, what is sampling frequency for the data to be historized. It depends on, the computing power itself, and just making sure you have enough resources to deal with that amount of data ingestion. Over to you, Arun.
Great. Yep. One more thing is I want to go over this before we leave the analysis workbench. Is you can add an attribute simply by looking at your tree without having to go into it, right? So I can do something like find another attribute that I want to add from one of my inverters, right? So I can go into this, or I can do an expression from one of my inverters. So if I wanted to, I could also do something like from this inverter, I want the max daily yield from this inverter. So there's a lot of choices for you guys to add whatever attributes that you want to add, and you can do an expression right here and immediately add it to the analysis workbench without making an own separate attribute. Or you can add one of our pre-existing attributes. So I can add the total yield. You'll see that I've added it here, and this is a totally different attribute. And of course I can disable and re-enable the multi-swim lane to kind of show you guys what that looks like. Cool. Those are some of the features of our analysis workbench, but we're going to move on to how do we build a solar operations dashboard. And to get there, we're actually going to use some of our AI features. So really quick, we're going to build a couple panels using AI. And then once we do that, we're going to show you some of the customization options that we have for dashboards. And, that'll take you to where you want to get with that. So I'd pick inverter one. Let's just pick that one and go to panels. Once you pick inverter one panels, you should notice this screen right over here. And this is just AI generating some suggestions for you guys. So these are kind of the best panels that AI thinks that you guys should generate, based on the data you have, based on the contextualization. What you can do from here is, first of all, if you have trouble trying to figure out what panels to generate, I can get general analysis on this page. So it tells me, hey, here's all the panels that I've already created. Here's a selection of the panels I have. Here's some recommended next panels to generate. So if you're having trouble, figuring out which panels to make, AI can also act as kind of the co-pilot that helps you, drive some of these panels. So it doesn't just have to help you make the panels, it can also help you brainstorm. Just a side note, you don't have to use AI for this. I can disable the AI. So if you're wondering if this doesn't work offline, it's totally usable offline, but AI just makes it a lot easier. Now, the first thing you can do is you can generate more recommendations just by asking for more suggestions, and then AI will throw some more suggestions at you, and you'll start to see them pop up. Things I can do is I can like panels to generate more of one kind, and then I can also dislike some panels to generate less of another kind. So when I'm ready, I just pick a panel that I want to generate. So maybe this one. And you guys should just try generating as many of these as you want. Like this one is the past hourly trend for the DC power. So you'll see this is like the last 24 hours. Once I make a panel, if I want to understand that panel better too, I can also, get some panel interpretation about it. So here AI is interpreting that panel for me, and it's giving me some like key findings and you know what was consistent in the data. Were there anomalies? Is there a conclusion to draw from this? Is there some recommendations for us? So not only does AI help you create these panels, it also generates some insights for you, and this whole report you can download as a markdown file. And some people we've seen even use some of these reports as context, so you can download this and then use it as context for the related documents. It's a really cool feature. So and this chat is interactable, so you guys will always be able to, ask any follow-up questions if you have them. So AI doesn't just help you make some of these panels; it also, generates insights about them, so you can understand them better. So let's hit save on that. Because everything is so deeply templatized, I can convert it to a template, and then all my inverters, after this, will get this template as well. So I encourage you guys to sort of try that. Now, let's just generate 2 or 3 different kind of panels. So I'm going to go ahead and generate 2 or 3 different kind of panels. Like, just go ahead and click on some of the panels that you guys find interesting. I'm going to save this one. That's another panel that I have saved. Maybe let's just do another one here. Let's see. DC power fluctuated over last week. That seems pretty good. And we're just going to let AI sort of generate that for me, and then I'm going to hit save. I have a good amount of panels here. Another thing that I can do is I can generate a panel just with natural language. So, for example, try this one. I want the AC power and DC power for the last 15 minutes on a line graph. So you can just prompt all of your panels. You don't need to actually, go in there and, do anything manually. You can prompt the panels. And as you can see, I did it with multiple metrics. I can even, enable and disable the multi-swim lane if I wanted to. And it automatically puts these on a graph, and let's just go ahead and hit save. So I encourage you guys to build a couple more. So if you're having trouble thinking of what to build, always go back to your attributes and find, like, there's daily yield, total yield, DC power, and AC power, and you guys can use all of those immediately, right? So if I wanted to put a daily yield vs and total yield for the past 15 minutes in a line graph. I could do that one as well. So let's just create a couple more of these and see what it puts out. Go ahead and hit save, and now we have a couple panels already pre-built. Now this isn't the only way to make panels. As I mentioned, I can also add a new panel here, and then all of these panels will sort of pop up. I can even use that workshop metric that we created before, right? So this metric right here, where it's just the average and looks like it's not running completely. So you can add as many of these as you want to the same trend. So let's add the DC and AC power. If you wanted to, you can add the daily and total yield, but as many of these charts as you want. And the reason this one looks different is because it's not using the average function. So you can also adjust the expressioning here, right? So the expressions for this can be adjusted. So if I wanted to multiply this by something, I could totally do that here. Like if I wanted to multiply the DC power by 2 for some reason, I can also do that and evaluate, and you'll see that it creates a difference between both. I can rename the panel, obviously. If you wanted to change the color, you can do that as well, right? So here in the color scheme, I can pick a different color. So if I wanted to do shades of a color, or if I wanted to do a custom palette where I add multiple different colors, I could do that. So maybe I don't want the blue, I want a yellow, I could totally do that. Maybe I want to do a from a threshold, so I can set a threshold. I could do that, or I could just do a single color, but totally up to you guys on what the color is for this. And we're just going to use a custom palette, and here I can kind of click into it too. So if I wanted to change this one to red, I could totally do that. So that's the DC power and AC power. You also don't have to use a trend chart. If I wanted to use a stat value, a bar gauge, a gauge chart, I could totally do that as well. So I encourage you guys to build a couple of these. Let's just build this gauge chart. It's a good sort of graph to do. The gauge chart, you have a ton of different options as well. I can do things like, change the style. Maybe I want a circle. Maybe I want the orientation to be auto. Maybe I want the bar width to be greater. I want a ton of segments. I want spacing amongst these segments. Maybe not for the spacing, but you could adjust the spacing. I can turn off the display time. Maybe I don't want the timestamp on there. And I could also show labels for these as well. And then add things like a gradient or a center glow. Really so many different options for something like this. And you can have it as an arc. You can have it as a circle. Tons of different ways to customize this. And obviously, if I wanted to change the color, I could as well. Maybe I don't want the AC power like that. Yeah, throw up a couple of these charts. And once you guys, does AI support on creating the attributes? So AI can help you if you prompt in here saying, hey, I want to add the AC and DC power. It'll automatically do the expression. For creating the actual attributes itself, it doesn't do that. You create the attributes manually. If you mean creating the physical attributes, it doesn't do that, but it can do expressioning for you. Let's build one more of these graphs just to kind of go over some of the things we have. Maybe let's use daily yield and total yield for these. I want to throw both of these on, and we have a ton of different chart types, right? Like histogram or candlestick. I really like a bar gauge, so we're going to do this one, and maybe I can do like a horizontal graph too, so you guys can kind of see that. And I can add things like threshold. It looks like that this is already using the threshold. Yep. But you can do a custom palette too. Like I could do something like this, and we're going to call this demo 2. And then go ahead and hit save, go back. And now we should have a good amount of panels for us to build with and kind of get ready to use. If you have around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different panels, just go ahead and let me know once you guys have 6 panels. Go ahead and put a thumbs up there once you've got those 6 panels, and we should be good to go to move on to the next step of building the actual dashboards. Yeah, we're going to give you another couple seconds here to sort of do that.
And I think there's a question in the chat.
Yep. So I already answered that for the AI support creating attributes. It doesn't create the attributes. I'll go over it again. It's a good question, but it can do the expressioning for you. So if you type out, you want to add two attributes together, you want to multiply two attributes, you want the average or the max on a trend chart, you could do that. You are going to have to create the attributes yourself, though. So if I go back to attributes here, it doesn't create them. It can give you analysis on them, so it can tell you about your attributes, but it doesn't create the actual attributes, not yet, at least. Okay, so it's been about a minute, so hopefully you guys have gotten there, and it looks like we do have someone who has. So let's go to the dashboard section. TDGPZ/AI works totally offline if you wanted to, Sandeep. So you can use a local LLM, right? So we support the ability to connect to any model on the planet, right? So any model on the planet, devoid of whether it's big enterprise. So most of you should be using ChatGPT for this, or OpenAI's models. But if you don't want to use ChatGPT, if you want to use your own local LLM, those don't need any internet connection, right? You will need to provision some nice hardware for that, but they work exactly the same. So we provide the connection. We don't limit you on what you can connect to. It's totally up to you guys. The next part that we're going to go to is attributes. You guys should see all of your attributes right here. Sorry, dashboards. You should see all of the dashboards right here for each element. For me, I already have a dashboard, but you guys shouldn't have any dashboards. Okay. First, we're going to click Add New Dashboard. Before we do the Add New Dashboard, I want to go over the two kinds of dashboards, right? So we have two different types of dashboards. The first one, which I'll go over pretty briefly, is our Canvas dashboard. And these are those, the PyVision style, asset-centric style dashboards. So you guys can play around with this too on your own time, but these are essentially like those PNID diagram type dashboards. And you can do things like add, animated symbols. We have a ton of symbols, like so many of them within this library, and you guys can add your own symbols as well through images. You can also upload your AutoCAD files, and then I can even animate lines between two of these. So I can connect a line between both of these and do things like change the line width, animate it, so I can have an animation playing between two of these, and tons of different options. And I can even add the panels that I made from this already to this. So it's not just the asset-centric visualizations. You can also have your regular panels on here. So some people do like having a bunch of regular panels on here. So I encourage you guys to play around with this on your own time. But this is a really powerful tool for asset-centric visualizations. Okay. Looks like there's a question. I find it very difficult to identify the engineering unit for an attribute when I don't know it's a unit of metric class. Is there any way to search for an engineering unit and determine what unit of metric class it belongs to? Great. You can go through all of our unit of metrics in the library section. So you can see all of the unit of metric classes, and you can even search through them right here, right? So go ahead and try that out, and you'll be able to find which unit of metric class that it belongs to. And you can also add your own. So you can create your own unit of metric class if that doesn't work for you. There's a ton of options here, but I encourage you to play around with that. Okay, we're going to make our own dashboards though. So to make our own, we're going to hit the standard on this type. And these are those Grafana style dashboards. For unit of metric, for dashboards, you'll see that AI suggestions are here as well. And so if you have something that's strongly templatized, you'll see that it drops a bunch of suggestions for you. Here I can just click one of these and add it to a dashboard. You'll see it dropped the scatter plot in, and this is the correlation between AC and DC power automatically dropped in. So go ahead and drop one of the AI generated ones in. You'll notice that this is a grid system, so you don't see the grid lines, but if you go to the right here, you can show the grid lines. And now go to that library. The library includes all of the panels that we just made. It's very simple to add the panels, right? So I can move this sort of around, and then I can add, whatever panels that I want, and it automatically will resize. So add a couple panels to this, in whatever format that you want to. I would say get to about 6, and go ahead and customize this as you'd like. So I can do things. I can remove a panel, so I can delete it off of here and kind of move this through the grid however I like. And let's just go ahead and add a few of these panels in and go ahead and play around with how you want this to look. I can get this as nice or as however I want this to look. So for me, I'm going to add this histogram here, and maybe I want to add it to this, sort of right side. I just need to size it properly, and I can select an individual panel and it'll turn green. That's options for one individual panel, and you kind of just drag and drop, however you want to do this. So let's get it to a point that I like it, and this looks okay. Maybe I want to resize this a little bit, make it a little smaller. It's a standard grid system, so I'm going to give you a minute here to sort of get your dashboards however you like it, and then we'll go over a couple of different panel types for you guys to play around with within this, right? So maybe I want to add this one up here. It automatically resizes. This looks good to me. The multi-swim lane you can turn on and off here, so I can enable and disable here if I wanted to see the multi-swim lane. Another thing that's really cool is the ability to add rich text panels, right? And here I can just add random text like this is a workshop, and then hit enter, and this is automatically going to be created. So it can be like the title panel. And of course I can go in here and edit this panel however I like. I can make it as small or as large as I want it to. And then there's even a options menu for this panel that I can go in and adjust. And you can, I'm just going to make a really small, this is a workshop panel, but you guys can feel free to use this however you like. This is the panel that you would use for logos, whatever you wanted. You can add this sort of panel in, and each individual panel can be adjusted however you like, right? So you can add a radius to this specific panel if I wanted to. I can also, just get rid of a panel simply just by doing this and then getting rid of it. But that rich text panel is how you would kind of create sort of those logos, different texts, whatever options that you wanted. And this is like an example of a really nice rich text panel. So once you've hopped in and changed the settings, like this is what that would look like. And the deeper settings for these are better. So if I go into rich text, and here I'm just adjusting how I want this to look. If I go into sort of this, I can change exactly how this looks, right? If I go in and click edit on any of these guys, I can change what this panel would look like on the outside. So this is another option. So if I go edit, I can change all of these different settings for this, and get that how I like it. And so just play around with this. We're going to give it another minute here for you guys to be done with your panel. So whenever you're done, just give me a thumbs up. And then we'll move on to some of the deeper settings for my dashboard. So what are some overall things that I can change? Okay, 8:12 would be a good time to sort of switch gears to what you can change within a dashboard. And if you guys have any questions, yeah, feel free to drop that in the chat. Okay. We're going to go ahead and keep going. One thing you can do is obviously name your dashboard. So we're going to call this workshop. The next thing that you can do is add a description. So you can say, hey, this is a workshop or something. So I'm just going to say workshop in my description, and my categories, which I can create a new category of dashboard. And, I'm just going to call this workshop. Hit save. It's good to go. And it's tagged as a workshop. I can do a couple of things from here. So the background color, I can make it custom. So, maybe if I wanted to make it like a light blue, those look pretty good. I can get it as, customizable as I want. I could totally get that, background color. I'm going to keep mine transparent, but you guys can change the background color. You can add an effect. So if you wanted to add like an animated effect, you could totally do that. And I encourage you guys to try all of our different animated effects for the background. There's a lot of them in here. You can change the gap, right? If I wanted less of a gap, maybe I want, 1 as the panel gap, I could do that. I can add a radius to it, right? So I can change what the outside of the panel looks like, and then I can increase the radius. So you guys can add or decrease that radius however you want. You can even add more padding to each panel. So if you want it to be a little thicker on the edges, you could totally do that. I can even change the border color. So this is one that's interesting. You can change what the border of each panel looks like, and then you can also change the color as well. So the background color, I can go ahead and make it blue. I can change the border color as well, and I can even add an effect. So let's keep it transparent for now, but that's another option that you guys have. And then I can add like a width to this panel too. So if I wanted to add a width, change the border, we're going to go back to what it normally is, and like you could do like 10, and then you could change this to whatever you like. But for me, I'm just going to clear it, show you guys what that looks like by default. I kind of like this one, but really it's whatever you guys want it to look like. If you wanted that background effect, you could totally do that. I kind of like this, but we're gonna leave it like this. And of course, you can do a custom color on the background, like that turquoise, whatever you want on the RGB scale, you could totally do. Okay, another really important feature is scheduled reports. So you can get this specific dashboard, every morning, every night, or however you want through reports. So you'll just get like a link to this dashboard, and you can get a scheduled report of this, and it can be a one-off, it can be daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you want. And then you can also you can give the job a start time without an end time, right? So it only sends it once, or you can just get a daily dashboard from here. And this works through our standard email or text or Teams or Slack, but you guys are able to, use this however you like, right? So it supports standard webhook, so you can deliver it to all of your, messaging platforms if you like, or any other services that you want to do. And we've seen some really cool things be triggered off of this, but we're going to go ahead and hit save on this. And once you hit save, you'll see the workshop dashboard right here. I could do a couple things from here to the rest of it. So one of the things I could do is enable and disable the multi-swim lane. So I can turn that on and off. I can add it to a group. So you can group some of these dashboards together if you wanted to. So if I wanted to group a dashboard, I could totally do that. And then I could also get analysis on this dashboard, right? So it'll tell me, what is this dashboard trying to tell me? And you can see that it's fetching some panel data. It's telling me, what some key signals are, what are some, findings that it finds from the dashboards, and what are some actionable items. So like what should I review? And it tells me kind of what it found within the dashboard. So what's that overall summary for it? And I can also see which panels that it referenced down here. Awesome. So I encourage you guys to try that. You can also try looking through historical data. So in a day or so, you guys will have historical data. You can go ahead and play through the time range. I can even go back years and years, right? So when you guys do have some data in here, you can go back years and years. Totally okay. And then you can also do an auto refresh interval if you want to see data coming in. So if I wanted to do every 1 second, you'll notice the dashboard refreshes every second. So I can start to see that dashboard refresh every second. So you'll see what that looks like. And you can turn this off or on. Or I could share this dashboard, right? So one thing that people have always asked is they want to share the dashboard, but they don't want to share their data. They don't want to share their asset tree. You could totally do that. So I can hit submit here and then share this dashboard as a URL, and it'll be just the dashboard, devoid of my asset tree. So I encourage you guys to try this. You essentially can open a new tab and copy paste to see what it looks like, and it's just the dashboard, devoid of the asset tree. It's another feature we support. And these are meant to be embedded in your website. So if you put this on a website, it'll automatically resize to wherever it's placed and be directly on a website. You can also add annotations to each dashboard. So I can go in here and say, hey, this is a workshop. and then hit enter, and then you'll be able to download this as an MD file if you wanted to. And you can edit any of these annotations. I can also make this full screen. So if I want to see just the dashboard or present my dashboard, that's another thing that I could do as well. Awesome. We're going to give you guys another minute to kind of play around with it. But this is sort of, getting towards that end of this demo. So, this is how you would get to this sort of point. And we're going to get into that QA after all of that is kind of validated. It's a URL or client app to access those dashboards. It's just a URL, Sandeep. It's not access to the app at all. It's just the URL. It's a generated URL for the dashboard. Wow, okay. Mosh, when you connect a new data source to TSDB, if you want to build elements and attributes in IDMP with all the context, unit of metrics, you must do them manually, or you can also create the structure via Excel add-in. Well, you could do both. So you can also build all of this stuff through a tool that's similar to like something like PyBuilder through Excel. That's different than the Excel add-in. Excel add-in is similar to like Data Link if you've used that before. And then if you want to build through in IDMP manually, you can also do that through the Explorer. It also automatically creates some of this for you. So if you just imported your data, it'll find the best templates as well. There's multiple options, Mosh, to get to that endpoint. Okay, great. I'm sure most of you guys have gotten to this point. The last sort of thing that we're going to do is go into our AI chat. And then after we go into our AI chat, we're going to see how we can connect that AI connection. So navigate over to your AI chat. And because we've already worked with inverter 0101, I can ask it specific questions about each of the inverters, right? So I can say, hey, and then the slash here lets you access any of our tools. So if you do slash report, tell me about inverter 101, right? And it'll start to look into inverter 101, and you can see all of the tools it's using and the semantic reasoning that it gives you for each of these tools. And you could see the skills it's using. Now it's doing a summary of inverter 101. You'll start to see it throw all the attributes on there. What are some of these trends for this one, inverter 101? And what's some performance for inverter 101, what's the kind of report, and there's even some follow-up questions. So you can even say, hey, provide a summary of any recent events, and it's looking through all of the events I have, and then here's some other notable events, and here's some recommended actions. And you can even ask this tool questions about the platform. So like if I wanted an IDMP question, I wanted to say, hey, I want to use the TDengine wiki to say, hey, how do I build a dashboard? Like, how do I build a dashboard? It'll look through the wiki, and all of these tools are available for you guys to use anywhere. So, and even drops in some references on how to build some of these tools. It says, hey, here's a guide to building a dashboard. Here's some of the things, and like there's follow-up questions too, right? Some suggestions for you guys. So like list the available panel types and their best use cases. So you'll be able to see that directly within. Here it's telling me all the different panels I have, and what kind of panels that I can use, and what are some suggestions to use some of these panels. And really great for generating those specific reports, and also saying, hey, I have questions on TDengine itself. So I would use this tool to help you with the creation of everything you're doing and insights into everything you're doing. Another thing is, how do I hook up an AI connection? So we're going to go to admin console. We're going to connections, or sorry, we're going to agentic AI, and then we're going to go to connection. Here, you'll notice that you're already connected to OpenAI. But if I wanted to connect to anyone else, I would just do add connection and then pick the provider, right? We have a ton of providers. I challenge you guys to find someone that we don't have. Like, for example, if you find someone we don't have, I can pick custom provider and then just use their API key and their API URL. Now, we did have someone ask about, can I use this offline? And yes, you can use a local LLM. For local LLMs, you simply just add the API URL without anything else, and it should connect as a custom provider. So we don't provide the LLM. That's something you guys bring yourself. So if the AI connection stops working after 7 days, it's because the trial ran out. It's not because anything's wrong with the system. And you guys can easily add your own provider through this. So for example, let's just go through it. Like if I wanted to use OpenAI, right? So OpenAI is a really common one. I would put the OpenAI API URL, API key, and then the model, right? So any model that I wanted, maybe I want to use GPT-4o, maybe I want to use O3 Mini, maybe I want to use Terra, their best model. I could use all of them. And I just simply connect to it and then pick the model that I want. And if there's models you can't find, you can also fetch models directly from this through the API key and API URL. Once you've connected this, you can also see the usage. 5,000 tag limit is including calculated tags. What do you mean by calculated tags?
Let me answer that. Yes. So Sandeep, yeah. So this includes the calculated tags. Yes.
Cool. Awesome. So token consumption, you can easily see through here. So you'll be able to see how many tokens you've consumed. And because it's optimized for our platform, you'll see that we use very little compared to you building your own MCP. So I do encourage you guys to check the cost difference between us and just building it yourself. Because it's heavily optimized for our platform, you'll notice that we consume less tokens and the cost is also much less than if you would build it yourself. One more thing is to actually check that tag limit that Jim just mentioned. You simply go to system configuration and go to license management, and you'll be able to see how many tags you've used here, as well as all of the features and everything that you have.
Yeah, that was a pretty good workshop. It ran like longer than I thought it would. So yep. Maybe we'll save some of the other like analysis or events to the next session.
Yep. We're gonna open up the Q&A here. So towards the end of the session, as mentioned, let's go ahead and remove my screen. Thanks, Jim. This would be a great time for you guys to throw some questions at us.
So yeah, a recording will be sent to everyone. So don't worry if you haven't followed along in today's session. We'll send you a recording afterwards, and yeah, you can watch that offline and just follow that step by step. And then next, some of the follow-up sessions, and let's say the week after next, we will do another session. We'll probably talk about how you can ingest the data from your production like data sources like OPC UA or MQTT or directly into TDengine and then map it to IDMP, right? So that's something we'll talk about. And other topics we can cover is for things like analytics, analysis, calculations, how to create events, how to do event analytics, right? So these are, that might be a topic for a different session afterwards. So we'll keep doing that once every other week and just cover as many topics that you're interested as possible. If you have questions regarding the recommended network architecture for the control network, Sandeep, just send me an email. I'll put my email down in the chat. So usually we discuss that, we have some documentation for that, but we're still working on the more comprehensive version of the documentation. In the same time, we work with every use case, every user to just we can give you very, good recommendations for your specific scenario. Yeah, just send us an email. We'll have a private chat about that. It's yeah, we work with plenty of users in different kind of a network architectural environments, and we can tell you how you can implement TDengine. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, some of the other questions we've seen from users who are, who wants to use TDengine in a completely air-gapped environment. So that definitely works. There's no problem with that. The only thing is that with the free tier, TDengine free tier, you do need internet to activate the free tier license. What you can do is that you can, if there's a chance for you to have TDengine the server, temporary internet connection to activate the license, and then you can disconnect the internet. You can use that for a year. It's only needed whenever you need to renew the license, and you can renew the license at no cost. But we do need you to connect to the internet for the renewal of the free license. If it's completely air gapped, if there is no way for you to have any kind of internet access at all, just let us know. We can we can talk about that. We can maybe get you an evaluation license. We can talk about that. Yeah. And some other questions we've seen users just like they wanted to connect TDengine with like Power BI. Again, with our regular license, no problem at all. We support JDBC and ODBC. You can connect with any third-party tool that you wanted to. But if you want to use the free tier, that's currently one limitation for the free tier, is that you won't be able to query data from our TDengine TSDB enterprise using the free tier. So and one of the users, they say they have about only 2,000 tags. They're asking if they want to get a commercial license, can they get anything like below because the one we listed on the website starts with 7,500 tags. But if you need to use a commercial license for the purpose of, let's say, third-party tool connection and everything like that, we do offer a commercial license as low as 2,500 tags, I think. Yeah, but the main purpose is that we do want to encourage more users to use IDMP and use our overall historian features and AI features. And in the same time, we still have a lot of existing users using TSDB, the commercial version of the TSDB. So we do not want to disrupt our existing kind of a pricing architecture for the TSDB itself. That's the reason we set this third-party kind of limitation for this bundle, for this free tier. Okay, if you have any other questions, feel free to stay along and just type the question in the chat. We'll get those answered as we'll stay for another 10 minutes or so just in case there's any questions coming up. If not, feel free to drop out, or we'll send you a recording afterwards. And again, if you have any questions, send me an email directly. I have my email listed here on the screen. And yeah, don't hesitate to email us at all. Don't hesitate at all to email us if you have any questions. We also have a Discord channel, as you see on the screen. Feel free to just join our Discord channel. We will have dedicated support engineers monitoring that channel all the time, and just any questions coming up, it will be answered during that channel as well. Yeah. Either way, you can either contact us or join the Discord channel. Either way, we'll get you, all your questions answered. And again, I would highly encourage everyone to read through the documentation for both the TSDB and IDMP. That will probably answer, I would say 95% of the questions that you have. For the remaining questions that you still have, feel free to have a discussion with us.
Thanks, Morgan. Appreciate that.
Thank you for joining, guys. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll be doing more of these in the future, so stay tuned to our invitation letter for workshops. And yeah, this is mainly targeting the free tier, how you can use free tier in different scenarios. And to Sandeep's question about the downloads procedures, if we're continuing to work to improve this experience for the downloads, if you have any question at all, don't forget to reach out to us directly at jim@tdengine.com or support@tdengine.com. Okay, any question at all, just reach out to us. Thank you everyone for joining. Okay, everyone, I think that should be it for today's session. Yeah. All right, I think you're on mute.
Yep. I think that was a really fruitful overall session, Jim, and I really hope a lot of these people got some good information out of it.
Yeah, that was fun, right? Yeah. We'll do that again the week after next. And thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you again the next time. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.